You're listening to Emerson Whitner's NXT Report on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Emerson Whitner, and this is your NXT audio update for Wednesday, January 20th, 2016, here on AngryMarks.com and WrestlingOutsiders.com. A quick note, I will be back on Sunday, first on AngryMarks.com, with an exclusive play-by-play of the Royal Rumble, and then over on WrestlingOutsiders.com for a Royal Rumble audio recap. So check those both out this coming Sunday. But before we get to there, let's get on to NXT. Next week, Samoa Joe, Sami Zayn, and Baron Corbin will compete in a triple threat number one contenders match. But before we get to that, all three men are in action here tonight. And we're going to kick things off with Sami Zayn's return to Full Sail for his first match there since May, taking on Adam Rose of all people. Adam Rose, the last time he was here, he did not allow his music to be played, which got him heat from the crowd. Now he just let it play while he implied how much he hated his own theme music. Not sure why he allowed it to keep playing, but whatever. Rose got just enough offense so that this wasn't a total squash. One person in the crowd tried getting a Leo Kruger chant going, but everyone else just ignored him and chanted for Sami. Rose hit a diving headbutt, but when he hit the diving headbutt, you could tell he was afraid of landing, as he braced himself to the point that it just looked ridiculous on the slow motion replay. Out of nowhere, Zayn hit the STO, slapped on a Koji clutch, and got the submission. Alex Reyes interviewed Johnny Gargano about his match tonight with Samoa Joe. Gargano pointed out that Joe has been upset about not winning the NXT title at TakeOver and has been taking it out on everyone. Gargano said that he is all heart, and as long as that he has a heartbeat, he will not back down from Samoa Joe tonight. Chad Gable and Jason Jordan were outside the arena talking about being the alpha males of NXT. Poor Monty Brown. After talking back and forth, they named their team American Alpha, and next week they will face Blake and Murphy. By the way, the highlight of the interview, Jason Jordan finally did the ready, willing, and Gable line. Apollo Crews wrestled Ty Dillinger in a rematch from Brooklyn up next. This was, of course, a rematch when Apollo Crews debuted in Brooklyn back in August. Despite being the perfect 10, Ty Dillinger won maybe 5 matches in all of 2015. If you recall, him and Jason Jordan were a tag team that never got along and were constantly breaking up. And then when he started being the perfect 10, Dillinger has since lost almost every match. So not sure what exactly is making him the perfect 10. Crews at one point picked Dillinger up for a suplex. In his efforts to get out of it, Dillinger dropped knees down on the Crews head, but Apollo still dropped him with the aforementioned suplex. Apollo went for a springboard one-on maneuver on the outside, but Dillinger tripped him up and hit a nice-looking suicide dive of his own. Back in the ring, he got a near fall with a wacky, running, twisting knee to the face. The announcers killed their own credibility by talking about how no one has ever kicked out of that move. You know, the move that Dillinger has used maybe one other time on television. Whatever. Crews won with a twisting sit-out powerbomb. After the match, Crews did a promo cutting about how he does not like that matches end with disqualification, so he wants a non-title match with Finn Balor, and we'll get more on that a little bit later. Alex was back trying to interview Blake and Murphy, but they ignored him. Alexa Bliss took over the interview, and told Blake and Murphy that they blew it in London when they lost the four-way tag, stating that they're so much better than what they showed back at TakeOver. We got a short video package for the Vaudevillains, just short enough to let us know that they were angry young men. Baron Corbin pinned the debuting Rich Swann next. It seemed, if there were 300 people in Full Sail, it seemed about 50 people knew who Rich Swann was, and those 50 made a lot of noise. But you could watch, and a lot of people on TV didn't know or maybe just didn't care. Who knows? The announcers mentioned that he was one of the top independent wrestlers in the world. Swann did look really good in this match. At one point, he took a backdrop and did a full flip in the air, landing flat on his face. Swann's best offense was to avoid Baron Corbin and wearing him out just by running all over the ring. And then he chopped Baron down with kicks, reminding me of poor Paul Varland, who back at UFC 7, Marco Huas chopped down with leg kicks. Swann came off the top rope, but Baron avoided him and hit something that looked more like a black hole slam than the End of Days for the win. Bayley and Carmella were backstage being interviewed by Alex. Carmella was happy about being #1 contender and getting to wrestle her friend. The way they kept emphasizing how they're friends and Carmella's never had a title shot before just makes me think that poor Carmella is going to turn heel. However, I've been saying Carmella's going to turn heel now for 8 months. Just as Bayley started talking about their upcoming tag match, Dash and Dawson, of all people, walked up and made Carmella go nuts when they pointed out that Enzo and Cass never won the big one, so Carmella, like her boys, won't win the big one either. Bayley and Carmella faced Alexa Bliss and Emma next. This, at times, came off more like a handicap match. I don't know if this was actually the story they meant to tell. However, Bayley seemed to not trust Carmella to be in the ring. Emma and Alexa attacked both ladies before the bell, knocking Carmella off the apron and then injuring Bayley's ribs. And then when the bell rang, instead of Bayley tagging out, she just stayed in the ring. They got the heat on Bayley. When Bayley scratched and crawled and dragged herself to the corner, Alexa ran over and knocked Carmella off the apron a second time. Bayley made her own comeback, which got halted when Dana Brooke interfered to give the heels back the advantage. But finally, Bayley was able to avoid her foes just long enough to make the tag. Carmella went nuts on both girls and made Alexa tap to a leg scissors. Alex interviewed Finn Balor. Balor accepted Apollo Crews' challenge to a non-title match. They didn't say as much, but I assume it's going to be next week. And then in the main event, Samoa Joe versus Johnny Gargano. The fans chanted Johnny Wrestling until about half the crowd decided that they'd rather chant for Joe. So we got a pretty nice little dueling chant there. Gargano did get a bit of offense. Joe bailed outside the ring. Gargano then went to run down the ring apron at him, but Joe tripped him up, and so Gargano crashed face first on the ring apron. Gargano made a brief comeback, including hitting a slingshot DDT that ended up being kicked in the face. Joe locked on the Kikina clutch. Johnny Gargano tapped out. It was a good match, but not nearly as good as the Ciampa match from a few weeks ago that Joe had. The announcers ended the show by wishing good luck to Sami Zayn and Baron Corbin, putting over that they have to face a monster next week. So that's going to do it from Full Sail. It was a fun little show, building up next week's Triple Threat #1 Contenders match. So look forward to seeing what's going to happen there. I want to thank you all for listening. I hope you have a great day. And if you're in the Northeast, Good luck avoiding that snow this weekend. Bye.
You're listening to Emerson Whitner's NXT Report on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.